The night before the storm, a whisper ran through the village of Omobala like a knife through ripe fruit. The wedding is cursed. No one knew who said it first. Perhaps it was the old woman who read Bones by moonlight, or the palm wine tapper, who saw a black hawk circle above the baobab tree 3 times. All they knew was that something didn't feel right, and in the center of it all stood Ayotunde. He was the kind of man mothers pointed out to their daughters in the market. Tall, with skin the color of roasted cocoa, and eyes that carried both warmth and warning. A civil engineer by trade, Ayotunde built bridges across rivers and roads through thick bush. But in matters of the heart, he had always been careful, slow, steady. Until Nya. She came into his life like harmattan wind, sudden, beautiful, and blinding. She was a teacher in the city of Kamea, graceful as moonlight with a voice soft as millet porridge. Her laughter had a rhythm that made even old men turn and smile. She wore bright head wraps and spoke with purpose. Her skin glowed like wet clay, and her presence shifted the mood in any room. They met 6 planting seasons ago at a festival of new yam. A cousin introduced them during the drum circle, and within moments, the air between them felt heavy with meaning. Ayotunde came from humble soil. Raised in Omobala by his mother, Essie, a respected herbalist known for healing the sick with both leaves and love. Nya's family was different. Her parents, Badu and Mbalika, ran one of Kamea's finest eateries, where foreign officials came to eat bushmeat stew and spicy okra soup. They wore imported fabrics and drove cars that shone like riverstones. Still, love did what love does. It bridged gaps, silenced doubts. A year before the wedding, Ayotunde knelt beneath the same baobab tree his father once prayed under, and asked Nya to marry him. Her yes was a whisper and a promise. Their wedding was to be held in the hills of Ndoloma, where the air smelled of mango blossom and the grass whispered songs of union. Guests would come from all corners, city folk in fine lace, villagers in woven wrappers, even dignitaries from Kamea. But before vows and blessings came the gathering of families. And that, dear listener, is where the soil first began to crack. Let us start not with fire, but with the match that struck it. Badu and Mbalika, Nya's parents, were the kind who entered rooms like chiefs, even when no drums announced them. Loud in voice, louder in pride. They believed in status, in show, in being seen. At first, Ayotunde thought their confidence was just city spirit, but slowly he noticed how it turned sharp. They talked over others, laughed at simpler things, treated Ayotunde not as a son-to-be, but a lucky outsider marrying into grace. Still, Ayotunde endured. He had learned patience from his mother, Essie, a woman of grace and grit. She had passed 2 years ago after a long battle with bone sickness that drained her but never silenced her smile. Even in pain, she gathered herbs for others, fed orphan children and scolded corrupt elders with the same soft tone she used to sing lullabies. Isi had done more than raise a son. She had raised a village, and she had given more than words to Nya's family. Years ago, when Badu and Mbalika's eatery was falling like an unripe pawpaw, it was Essie who walked into the bank and offered her own land as collateral. She believed in their vision. She helped them track money, cut waste, and within months, the fire in their kitchen roared again. When their expensive cooking hearth broke, it was Essie who dipped into her healing funds to buy them a new one. Even though she needed those coins for medicine, she never mentioned it again. And when Kojo, Nya's older brother, couldn't afford his final term at the university, it was Isi who paid. "Let him finish," she told Ayotunde. "No one can steal knowledge from a full mind." She gave her time too. Hours spent tutoring Kojo's children, helping balance their budgets, even showing Nya's younger cousin how to prepare bitter leaf soup properly. Yet gratitude from Nya's family was like mist, visible for a moment, gone the next. When Isi passed, Ayotunde folded into himself like cloth in a basket. Nya stood beside him, but her comfort was brittle. She said things like, "Your mother wouldn't want this sadness, and it's time to be strong now." Maybe true. But her tone felt like a broom sweeping feelings away. As the wedding crept closer, unease crawled in. Ayotunde suggested a small, Tribute to Essie during the ceremony. A poem. A moment of silence. Nia said, "Wouldn't that make people cry? Weddings should be bright." He nodded, though his heart ached. Then came the whispers, the small stings. Badu once joked, "Our Nia is marrying into simplicity, but sometimes the village ground grows the sweetest yam." Mbalika often sighed, "Love requires sacrifice. Our daughter is very brave." Each comment, a needle, each smile too wide. Ayotunde swallowed his words like bitter cola. He told himself, once the wedding is done, things will settle. He was wrong. A moon cycle before the wedding, Badu and Mbalika offered to host the Nkumbi feast, a formal gathering of both families. It would be held at the riverfront lodge, where the candles never flickered and the food tasted like gold. Ayotunde thought, maybe they want peace. Maybe they finally accept me. But it was not peace they brought. It was pride. "We spared no coin," Mbalika boasted. "Everyone will talk of this night." "Only those of worth dine there," Badu added. "You're lucky to have our name beside yours." The gathering became their stage. Every detail from the menu to the seating was about power. Ayotunde tried to ask about the guest list. "We know who to invite," said Mbalika. "Just wear a nice outfit." Even Nia had changed. Once warm, she grew distant. Ayotunde raised concerns. "Stop worrying," she said. "My parents know how to handle such things." Ayotunde stayed silent, but his mother's spirit stirred in his chest. The night of the feast was coming. The stars were quiet. The wind carried warning, and deep within his bones, Ayotunde began to understand. The storm had not yet come, but the sky was turning. But Ayotunde focused on just getting through the wedding. Let them take the reins for the Nkumbi feast, he thought. Maybe this was how peace was made. Big mistake. As the date crept closer, Badu and Mbalika's colors grew bolder. Every conversation with them felt like chewing pepper without water, passive jabs wrapped in sugar. When Ayotunde asked about the guest list, Mbalika rolled her eyes like a queen disturbed from her throne. "We'll take care of it, Ayotunde. Just wear something nice and be on time." A small thing. But it clung to his chest. Wasn't this supposed to be their event? Shouldn't he and Nia have a say? Then came the food. Mbalika bragged about the chef like he was an oracle. "He's preparing something exceptional," she smiled. "Nothing like what you're used to back home." That last line, that was her favorite insult. Back home. Her way of reminding him he was raised among goats and gravel, not silk and silver, that he came from a working-class path they'd never walk. He tried to ignore it, brushing aside the growing ache in his gut. "It's just one night," he told himself. Smile, nod, survive. But even Nia's warmth had started to fade. She used to shield him. Now she echoed her parents. When he brought up concerns, she'd wave her hand, barely listening. "Ayotunde, you're overthinking. My parents know what they're doing." The dinner wasn't the only issue. It was how they made him feel like a stranger in his own love story. Like he should be grateful Nia had chosen him at all. And Nia? She said nothing. Laughed along with their jabs, looked away when his voice grew quiet. Then, a week before the feast, a shadow grew heavier. They were at Badu and Mbalika's compound finalizing plans. Mbalika was pacing like a general, flipping through flower designs and table placements. Ayotunde gently suggested simpler centerpieces, wild lilies and cowries, something Essie would have loved. Mbalika didn't even lift her gaze. Ah yes, Essie had interesting taste. But this is Nia's day. Let's keep things modern, He froze, a subtle jab but sharp as a spearhead. Nia said nothing, just kept tapping her phone as if she hadn't heard. He wanted to shout, wanted to demand respect for the woman who gave so much, but he stayed quiet, like always. He thought he was preserving peace. But each silence buried a part of him. Then came the night. The air was thick with tension as they drove to the riverfront lodge. Ayotunde tried to joke, tried to reach her. She stayed on her phone. "Are you excited?" he asked. She shrugged. "It's just a dinner, Ayotunde. Don't stress. Just a dinner. They arrived. Badu was posted at the entrance like a minister, greeting guests with a booming voice and firm handshakes. Omobala barked orders to the staff, inspecting plates and floral stands. It felt more like a business gala than a celebration of love. The hall was dripping with wealth, white linens, golden cutlery, chandeliers that looked like they'd stolen. Stars from the sky. Ayotunde felt out of place, like sand in a silk pouch. As guests poured in, something struck him. Almost everyone was from Nia's side, relatives in fancy agbadas, business partners, friends of Badu. His side? A few. His father, his sister, two close friends. He pulled Nia aside. "Why isn't more of my family here?" She sighed, annoyed. "Ayotunde, your family is small. My parents had to fill the seats. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal. That was always her answer. He bit his tongue and returned to mingling, but his heart felt twisted. This wasn't about them. This was a stage. The food was served. Laughter rose. Glasses clinked. And then the real show began. Badu took the microphone. He cleared his throat like a judge delivering a sentence. "Welcome, everyone," he boomed. "Tonight we celebrate the union of two great families, ours and Ayotunde's." He said Ayotunde's name like it had thorns. Ayotunde sat, still knuckles white against his lap. Badu continued, praised Nia for her brilliance, her ambition. "She's always aimed high," he said, beaming. "And now she's marrying someone who'll help keep her grounded." A smirk, a few chuckles. Then a story about Nia as a child, full of fire, guided by their wisdom. She's always made strong choices, even if they're unconventional. He let the words dangle, like a trap set in tall grass. Ayotunde's father narrowed his eyes. His sister crossed her arms. Next, Omobala took the mic. She walked like a queen, collecting tribute. Our daughter," she began, voice trembling with fake emotion. "So full of grace, so deserving of all life has to offer." Then came the knife. "She's taught Ayotunde so much already. Patience, growth, the importance of proper taste." Laughter. Ayotunde choked on his water. She turned to him, smiling sweetly. "We're happy to welcome someone into our family who doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, right?" Snickers. He looked at Nia. She laughed too. No shame, no pause. And just when he thought it was over, Badu stood again. "One last thing," he said, tapping his glass. "Let us honor someone who's no longer with us, Ayotunde's mother, Esi." Ayotunde sat up. Finally, a moment of respect. But no. Badu chuckled. Esi was unique. Always had opinions. Always stepped in, even when not asked. Omobala added, "She meant well, of course, always trying to help." They laughed. "A generous woman," Badu said. "Sometimes too generous. But her spirit will be remembered. Let's just hope Ayotunde doesn't inherit her enthusiasm." For meddling. Ayotunde's jaw clenched, his stomach burned. Nia smiled. "Oh, Dad, stop," she giggled. "Stop." They were mocking his mother, who gave them everything. He looked around. Guests stared at their plates. Some uncomfortable, some amused. But inside Ayotunde, something snapped. The fire had arrived. Ayotunde sat frozen, every word from Badu, and Omobala echoing louder than the clinking of cutlery. The hall, once buzzing with voices, now felt like it was holding its breath. Nia's parents had crossed a sacred line, not just mocking a woman who had lifted them from ruin, but doing it with smiles and smugness, as if it were a game. Nia leaned toward him, her voice casual, almost lazy. "Are you okay?" she whispered. Ayotunde didn't look at her. His jaw was locked so tightly it ached. His fists trembled under the table. He wasn't just angry. He was wounded. Then Omobala approached, the same syrupy tone wrapped around her words. "Ayotunde," she said, hands folded, eyes gleaming. "I hope you weren't offended. Badu and I just wanted to bring a little lightness to the evening. You know, it's all in good fun." That was it. The chair scraped loudly as Ayotunde stood. The sound sliced through the murmurs, through the clinks of silverware. Silence. Every head turned toward him. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice was low, shaking with restrained rage. "Are you serious right now?" Ombalika froze, her fake smile faltering. Badu looked up, clearly annoyed, like Ayotunde had interrupted something trivial. Nya's eyes widened. "Ayotunde, please, sit down," she whispered, but he ignored her. He had swallowed too much for too long. "Let me understand this," he said, louder now. "You spent the entire evening insulting my mother, the woman who helped your family when no one else would, and now you want to laugh it off like it's some joke." Badu leaned back in his chair, arms folded across his chest. "You're overreacting," he said coolly. "It was just a bit of fun." "Fun?" Ayotunde snapped. "You called her meddling, said she gave too much, mocked her kindness like it was something shameful." Tension spread like fire through dry grass. Nia's cousins avoided his eyes. A few elders cleared their throats uncomfortably. His father stared down Badu with burning eyes. His sister's arms were crossed, face tight with fury. Ombalika let out a nervous laugh. "Ayotunde, don't be so sensitive. Everyone knows Essie liked to take charge. That's all we meant." "Take charge?" Ayotunde repeated, his voice rising. "She saved your business, bought you a new stove, paid your son's school fees, cared for your grandchildren so he could graduate, and this is how you speak of her." Badu sat up straighter, voice colder now. "That's enough. We didn't mean harm, but if you can't handle a little jest, maybe you're not ready for marriage." There it was, the truth behind their masks. Ayotunde turned to Naya, who reached for his arm, desperate. "Let's just go outside and talk, please." He pulled his arm away. "No, Naya, not this time. Not until your parents understand how wrong they are." Ombalika let out an exasperated sigh, as if she were the one being hurt. "You're ruining a beautiful evening." Ayotunde's voice cracked. "I'm ruining it? No. You ruined it the moment you dragged my mother's memory through the mud in front of 100 people. He turned to Naya, who looked red with embarrassment. "And you just sat there, you laughed, you let them do it." "I didn't know they'd say those things," she tried. "But you laughed," he said, "at every word. You never tried to stop them." The crowd around them stirred. Murmurs bubbled through the silence, guests leaning in to whisper. All eyes were on Ayotunde now, but he didn't flinch. This wasn't about attention. This was about dignity. Badu pushed back his chair and stood. "If you're that offended, Ayotunde, maybe you should leave." For a moment, Ayotunde hesitated. Then he looked around at the room, at the wealth, the performance, the people who saw him as less, and he realized something. He didn't belong here. Not because he was lesser, but because he still had a heart. He turned toward the exit, his head high, footsteps slow and heavy. His father rose immediately, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. His sister followed, glaring one last time at Ombalika. Nya's voice cracked behind him. "Ayotunde, wait." He paused, looked back once. "I've waited long enough." He walked out the door, into the night air, the stars above him silent, witnesses to a man reclaiming his voice. Outside, Ayotunde stood beneath the open sky, breathing hard. The night air cooled his face, but the fire in his chest still burned. He thought of leaving for good. Let them enjoy their polished evening, their glossy lies, their imagined victories. But then he glanced at his father, at his sister, at the friends who had traveled from far villages to support him. They looked at him not just with concern, but with belief. And Ayotunde knew. Walking out wasn't enough. "No," he said, straightening his shoulders. "I'm not done, not yet." His father raised a brow. "You sure?" Ayotunde nodded. "If I go now, they'll twist it, say I overreacted, that I'm unstable, that I was never good enough." His sister clenched her fists. "You don't owe them anything." "I know," he said softly, "but this isn't for them, it's for me, for Mama. I need to end this properly." His father placed a steady hand on his back. "Then go. We'll be right here." "No," Ayotunde said. "I have to do this alone." He turned, heart pounding, and stepped back toward the doors of the riverfront lodge. Inside, the air buzzed with whispers. Forks paused mid-air, heads turned. Nia's face paled as he entered, her eyes wide with confusion. "Ayotunde," she said, stepping forward. He didn't answer. He walked straight to the front of the room where Badu and Omobala were still seated, smug in their imagined control. Badu raised an eyebrow. "Back so soon?" he said, voice thick with mockery. Ayotunde didn't respond to him. Instead, he turned to the crowd. He raised his voice, not shouting, but steady, strong and clear. "Excuse me," he said. "I have something to say." The room hushed instantly. Even the servers froze. He turned slightly toward Naya, who stood frozen beside her chair, hands trembling. "I know this isn't what anyone expected," he began, "but after what happened tonight, I can't pretend anymore. I won't wait for the perfect time. This right now is the right moment." He breathed in deeply. "This wedding is off." Gasps broke out. A chair scraped. Someone covered their mouth. Nya staggered. "Ayotunde, no," she whispered. He raised a hand gently, stopping her without anger. "Just finality. This isn't just about tonight. It's about everything, about the kind of family I would be joining. A family that doesn't respect me, doesn't respect my mother, doesn't respect the values I was raised with." Badu stood, his expression hardening. "You're making a terrible mistake, boy." Ayotunde looked him straight in the eyes. "You think this is a mistake? Mocking the woman who kept your business alive, that wasn't a mistake. Treating me like I should be grateful to marry your daughter, that wasn't a mistake," Badu scoffed. "You're throwing away a good thing over nothing." "Nothing?" Ayotunde said. "You called my mother meddling, too generous. You turned her kindness into a joke. And Nia, she laughed with you. That's not nothing, that's everything." Omobala looked as if she wanted to cry, or maybe she just hated losing control. "Please," she whispered, "let's talk tomorrow. Emotions are high tonight." "There is no tomorrow," Ayotunde said. "Not for this." He turned to Nia one last time. Her face was streaked with tears. She looked like a child watching a kite fly too far. He looked at her not with anger but sorrow. "You stood by and let them tear down the woman who gave you everything. And now you want to fix it with silence." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Ayotunde turned. He didn't shout. He didn't slam anything. He walked with grace, with finality. As he reached the doors again, he heard Naya call out, voice breaking. "Ayotunde, please don't do this." He paused. The room held its breath. He looked over his shoulder. "I already did." And with that he walked into the night. Walking out of the riverfront lodge felt like peeling away a festering wound. Painful, but freeing. With every step Ayotunde took into the night, he left. Behind not just a wedding, but a weight. The judgment, the quiet insults, the shame. All of it scattered behind him like ash. He didn't feel proud. Not yet. What filled him was something sharper. Betrayal. And underneath it, a quiet grief. The next morning, the consequences poured in like rain. His phone lit up with messages. Dozens from Nia. A few from Badu and Omobala. Some from strangers. Cousins he never met. Aunts whose names he couldn't place. Nya's words bled apology. "I'm sorry, Ayotunde. Please talk to me. I didn't mean to hurt you." Badu's tone was harsher. "You embarrassed this family. You'll regret this." Omobala tried to sound wounded. "How could you do this to Nia? She doesn't deserve this." He read none of them twice. He answered none at all. By mid-afternoon, as the sky turned from gold to grey, a knock came at his door. He already knew who it was. Naya. She looked as though she hadn't slept. Her face blotchy, dress wrinkled from the night before. Her eyes searched his face with desperation. "Ayotunde," she whispered, "can we talk?" He stood at the doorway, arms crossed. "What is there to say?" he replied, voice like cooled iron. "I was clear last night." She flinched but didn't step back. "I know, and I deserve it, but please, Mom, we can fix this." He shook his head. "You still don't understand. This isn't a crack in the wall. This is the whole house falling." "I was scared," she said, wiping her face. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to cause a scene." "Scared of who?" Ayotunde snapped. "Scared of your parents, of the truth." She said nothing, just stood there, broken, without answers. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling. "Let me make this right. I'll talk to them. Make them apologize. Just don't end it like this. He looked at her for a long moment. This was never just about your parents, he said. Last night, I saw who you are, and I can't unsee it. Her lips trembled. Then she looked down and said nothing more. Days passed. One quiet afternoon, Ayotunde sat on the mat beside his late mother's chest of memories. He often opened it when he needed her voice in his head. Inside were tokens of her spirit, her coral beads, her favorite wrappers, a wooden comb, a small, carved mask from her youth, and the locket, or rather what should have been the locket. His heart stuttered. It was gone. He searched again, every corner, every fold of cloth. Every drawer nearby, nothing. The locket was a sacred thing, passed down from mother to daughter for generations. His mother gave it to him with trembling hands before she joined the ancestors. One day, you'll know the right heart to entrust. This too, she had said. Now it was missing, his mind raced. Only one person had been in his apartment recently. Nia. She had come by to return the ring. She asked to use the washroom before leaving. He hadn't thought twice. He picked up his phone, fingers heavy. Did you take the locket from Mama's keepsake box? Minutes later, her reply came, What are you talking about? He didn't bother with patience. You know what I'm talking about, the locket, it's gone, and you're the only one who's been here. This time the pause was longer. Then came her answer. I borrowed it, I just wanted something of hers, to feel close to you. His vision blurred with fury. He called. Naya answered, voice shaking. Ayotunde, it's not a big deal. I was going to return it. Not a big deal, he barked. That locket has been in my family for generations. You didn't borrow it. You stole it. You didn't even ask. I just wanted to feel connected, she whispered. You thought I wouldn't notice. It's my mother's. It's the last piece of her I have. She began crying, but he felt no softness this time. Where is it? He demanded. At my parents' house, she admitted. I was afraid I'd lose it. The silence on the line was heavier than any words. You took something sacred, he said coldly, and left it in the home of the people who disrespected her the most. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. I'm coming to get it. He ended the call. An hour later, he pulled up to Badu and Mombalika's compound. The sun was beginning to sink, and Ayotunde had never felt more steady in his purpose. His anger simmered as he drove. By the time he reached the gates of Badu and Mombalika's compound, it had hardened into something sharp and unmovable. When Mombalika opened the door, her expression changed instantly, from her usual polished grace to wary confusion. Ayotunde? She asked, voice guarded. What brings you here? I'm here for my mother's locket, he said, blunt as a hammer. Naya said it's here. Her eyes narrowed, then flicked away. A locket? Why didn't she just return it herself? He didn't answer. His stare said enough. She moved aside. Come in, she muttered. A few minutes passed before Nia appeared at the top of the stairs. Her face was blotchy, eyes red from crying. In her hand, she held the locket, dangling carelessly, like it was just another trinket. Here, she said quietly, stepping down. He snatched it from her fingers and turned it over, checking every detail. It was the same one. His mother's spirit was still in its shine. He tucked it into his pocket. Nia stepped closer. Ayotunde, please. I didn't mean to upset you. I was just trying to keep it safe. Safe? He said, his voice tight. You stole it, Naya. You took it from me, from my mother. After everything else, you thought this was okay. Her face crumpled. She reached for his arm. I didn't know how else to stay close to you. He stepped back. You already showed me who you were. This just proved it. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but he didn't soften. Not this time. Without another word, he walked out. The door shut behind him with finality. In the days that followed, he erased all traces of the connection, blocked her number, deleted her messages, unfollowed every face tied to that chapter of his life. There would be no turning back. The wedding was over. But more than that, he was free. Free from the shame, the silence, the pain of pretending. He had protected his mother's legacy, and his own heart. For the first time in years, Ayotunde felt peace, not because everything was healed, but because he had chosen truth, and that was enough. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Honor, self-respect, and the legacy of those who loved you matter more than keeping peace with those who never valued you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African tales that speak to the soul.